It is Tuesday, May the 2nd, and we have reached the second round of these NBA playoffs. Couple of interesting games on tap for tonight. I'll be involved in both of them, so let's go through them quickly. Starting in Boston, where the Celtics host the Washington Wizards, Game 2 of their series. Boston a 5.5-point favorite at BetSafe, 218 the total in this game. Celtics, of course, up 1-0 after winning 123-111 on Sunday. It was a very interesting game. I'm sure at the beginning of the game, Boston fans were like, oh no, here we go again, because if you recall, in the Celtics round 1 series against Chicago, they came out very flat, lost the first 2 games at home, and appeared to be in big trouble in the series before turning it on and winning 4 straight. And they sure did come out flat in Game 1 on Sunday. Wizards getting out to a 16-0 lead, and they had a 14-point lead at the end of the first quarter, but Boston kept with it, had a huge third quarter, and as we said, ended up winning the game comfortably. They won the game by 12 points. Now, a few things I think we can take away from that. Look, no doubt, the Wizards, we know who they are. John Wall and Bradley Beal, they steer the ship for this Washington team, as good a tandem of guards as you'll find in the NBA, but it was a little too easy for them in the first quarter of Game 1. And we saw Brad Stevens, Boston coach, make a little bit of an adjustment, starting Marcus Smart in the second half instead of Gerald Green. If you recall, in Celtics round 1 series, Stevens shook things up after the first 2 games by putting Gerald Green in the starting lineup in place of Amir Johnson, who had been the Celtics starting power forward throughout most of the season. The Celtics needed an offensive jolt, and Green provided that. Green, of course, a perimeter scorer who doesn't provide a whole lot in the way of rebounding and defense, but he was just what the doctor ordered in round 1 against the Bulls. However, in this series, after watching the Celtics surrender 38 first quarter points in Game 1, it looked like Brad Stevens had seen enough, put in the more defensively minded Marcus Smart in the second half. Smart playing 31 minutes in Game 1, Gerald Green getting just 9 minutes, Amir Johnson also with just 9 minutes. I think we might see more of that as the series progresses. As we said, John Wall and Bradley Beal, as good as it comes in terms of guard tandem in the Eastern Conference or in the entire NBA for that matter. So the Celts will need all the defensive help they can get. Isaiah Thomas, as good as he is offensively, doesn't provide much in the way of defensive resistance. But Thomas did score 33 big points in Game 1. And look, the Celtics were just too much for the Wizards to handle on the perimeter. Boston with 19 made threes. And as we said, 123 points scored. And that's going to be what the Wizards are going to have to contend with throughout this series. Are the Wizards good enough to beat defensively, to beat the Celtics? We know throughout the regular season, a lot of time this Washington team was known for their defensive lapses. They finished the regular season ranked 21st in the NBA in points allowed, 24th in opponents' field goal percentage, allowing the opposition to shoot 46.6% from the floor. I know a lot of people were thinking they might be able to turn it on for the playoffs, because we did see the Wizards play good defense in stretches throughout the regular season, but in Game 1, they certainly didn't turn it on, and there are concerns going forward, no doubt about it, especially when these games are in Boston, because home court advantage is going to matter in this series. The Wizards in particular were a total different team at home and on the road this season. They were 49-33 overall, 16 games over 500, but just 19-22 away from home. And we saw them lose 2 games on the road in their first round series against the Atlanta Hawks. So home court is going to matter here. This game in Boston, of course. Look, the Celtics, ever since dropping those first 2 games, the Chicago Bulls, they have really turned it on. 5 straight wins now. They've scored 104 points or more in each of those games. 30-11 at home in the regular season this year. Just appears to me right now that Boston has more firepower. Yes, the Wizards do have some serious firepower with Wall and Bradley Beal, but the Celtics, I believe, have him outgunned right now. Markieff Morris, a key cog for Washington, questionable in this game with that sprained ankle. He said he will play, but if you remember, he came down on Al Horford early in that Game 1, sprained his left ankle, had to leave for the remainder of the game. So even if he does play, probably won't be 100%. I do think the Wizards are going to get a game or 2 in this series, but I think that might happen when the series moves back to Washington. I like the Celtics in this game to win and cover the 5.5-point number. Moving on now to Golden State, where the Warriors host the Utah Jazz, Game 1 of their series. Golden State, a big 13.5-point favorite at BetSafe, 206.5 the total here. Now look, at first glance, this number looks a little big. After all, Utah, a quality team. They've played a lot of closely contested games. They played Golden State 3 times this year. 2 of those games were very close. One of the games, which was the last time they met, that was on April 10th, the next last game of the regular season. The Jazz were able to win that game. That was in Utah, of course. So look, again, a 13.5-point number, you're wise to take a second look at that. And I haven't liked some of the comments that we've heard from the Golden State players over the past couple of days. Three players, Matt Barnes, Andre Iguodala, and Kevin Durant, coming out recently admitting they were rooting for the LA Clippers to win the Round 1 series against Utah. Why? Because they said the nightlife was so much better in LA. Iguodala, as a matter of fact, some bizarre quotes about how his mind fell asleep in Utah because all there was to do was sit around and watch television and things. Anyway, just strange things to be saying before you're about to face a very good Utah Jazz team that, again, the Warriors have had a little bit of trouble with during this regular season. And the public does like Utah in this game. Over 60% of public money as of the time of this recording coming in on the Jazz. And as you said, you can understand why with a 13-point number. However, let's keep in mind, the Jazz just 2 days removed here from a Game 7 win on the road against the LA Clippers. A real triumph. You could tell they were very excited about that, as they should have been. The Warriors, meanwhile, swept the Portland Trail Blazers. They are plenty rested now. Kevin Durant fully healthy. Steph Curry on fire, averaging 29.8 points per game in that Round 1 series against Portland, shooting 42.2% from three. The Jazz, as good as they are defensively, and they were the best team in the NBA in terms of points allowed this year, and of course pace is going to be a big theme of this series. Are the Jazz going to be able to junk it up and get Golden State to play to their pace? And they were able to do that during the regular season. In the three meetings, the Warriors never scored more than 106 points. So the Jazz would definitely consider that a success if they were able to do that in this series. But as good as the Jazz are defensively, they really struggle sometimes offensively. The Jazz, 28th in the NBA in the regular season in terms of points scored. Only two teams averaged fewer points per game than Utah's 100.7. To put it into perspective, Golden State averaged 115.9 points per game this season. Jazz just 100.7, and they failed to reach the 100-point plateau in 4 of their 7 games against the Clippers in that Round 1 series. So definitely a concern here. Will the Jazz be able to produce enough points to beat Utah 4 times? I don't know. And we mentioned the Jazz played them very tough in 2 of the 3 meetings this season. Well, there was another meeting. That was on December 20th. Warriors winning that game 104-74, a 30-point win. And that type of thing is a definite possibility when these two teams play. Because, again, sometimes Utah just cannot score enough. I mean, to beat any NBA team. I mean, this Utah Jazz team, on their off nights offensively, they could lose to anybody. And Golden State is good enough offensively where when they're on, they can score against anybody. So there's definite blowout potential here. I think the Warriors are going to win a couple of these games big. Gordon Hayward, Utah's best player, has really struggled in this matchup, really struggled against the Warriors for the past couple of seasons. As a matter of fact, in the last 5 games against Golden State, which stretches back to the beginning of last year, Hayward shooting just 31.6% from the floor. The Warriors have a couple of tough defenders they throw at him. Klay Thompson, obviously an excellent defender. Same with Andre Iguodala. Draymond Green, even though he's a big man, he can cover just about every position on the floor. He switches off on Hayward from time to time, roughs him up a little bit. So they say tough matchup for Hayward. Obviously, the Warriors a tough matchup for anybody. But look, I believe this game 1, such a tall order for Utah going on the road where Golden State is just so good there in Oracle Arena. As we said, the Jazz just 2 days removed from that Game 7 win in LA. Wouldn't surprise me if they were on tired legs. I think the Jazz are going to give them a series here. I think they're going to take a game or two and make a couple of more games interesting. But I don't think they're going to make this game interesting. I think Golden State wins this game 1 and wins it handily. I like them to cover the 13.5-point number. There you have it, folks. Those are my thoughts on this Tuesday, May the 2nd. I like both the home favorites here. I like the Celtics -5.5 at home, Game 2 of their series against the Washington Wizards. And I like the Golden State Warriors to cover 13.5, Game 1 of their series against the Utah Jazz. I wish you best of luck in whatever you do on this Tuesday, May the 2nd, just so long as your interests don't conflict with my interests. Enjoy these games, folks. They should be good.